So back in the film days, SLR cameras like this used to be all the rage. This was cutting edge technology. You were able to actually see what you were shooting before you shot it. And they were quite expensive once upon a time, but now they're somewhat easy to get. And now that film's come back into vogue, many people have taken to getting SLR cameras. But maybe you just got one from eBay or from your grandparents or wherever, and you're not quite sure how to use it. So today we're going to walk through how you can use an SLR camera. So today we are looking at our SLR camera. Today this one is a Praktica Super TL3. It was made in East Germany. I believe this one's from roughly like 1975, 1976 sort of area. Anyway, it is a pretty standard and pretty affordable SLR camera, but ultimately what I'm going to say in this video can apply to many SLR cameras, so just keep in mind that not everything is going to be exactly the same, but it will be probably close. So this camera has on it currently a Pentax 28mm f3.5, and this brings me to our first point. When you're using an SLR camera, I think one of the first things you should at least just know is what lens mount do you have? This camera has a very common M42 screw mount lens. So it's real easy to take the lens on and off. It screws on and off, just like anything else. But these were later improved with the invention of bayonet mounts, which then clicked into place. So if you're using something like a Canon AE1, you're going to have a different lens mount than if you're using a Nikon F2 or something like that. So I would say just be aware of what your lens mount is, because then that means you're able to get more lenses for your camera. When we look at this camera, the real sort of benefit for an SLR camera back in the day was that it has a mirror inside, and this mirror goes up into a pentaprism, which then is reflected out through the back so that you're able to see exactly what is going on through the lens. And this was pretty revolutionary. Exacta had created some SLRs way back in the early 1900s, but it wasn't until maybe we'll say like the 70s or so that SLRs really came into vogue and then exploded. So this is when most people think about a film camera, it's something that looks like this. It's probably, your classic Canon AE1 or A1 or, anything by Pentax maybe. Either way, these Prakticas are pretty close, and honestly, the M42 mount was actually invented by Praktica and then later became known more as the Pentax screw lens. All you need to know with a camera like this is that when you wind on, it advances the film, and then inside, that mirror kicks up so that it's able to clear the way for the shutter. The shutter opens, exposes the film, and the whole process repeats. Some of the older SLR cameras, the mirror doesn't come immediately down. That was a later invention, but it's handy because that means that you don't have a blackout through the viewfinder the whole time. Some of my older SLR cameras, like my Contaflex, has that. It's fine, it's not a big deal, but it's just so much nicer to have it that your camera is able to always be viewable through the lens. A lot of SLR cameras are going to have a lever wind system on the top. This Praktica does. Most cameras are going to have the shutter button on the top, somewhere around the right side. The Prakticas are on the front. Again, not an actually big difference, but you'll need to know where your shutter release is. That's important. On this camera also, my shutter speeds are up on the top here, so if I wanted to change to 1/500th of a second, I'm able to do that. These cameras, you can change the shutter speed regardless of whether or not you have wound the shutter on, which is at odds with a lot of the Leica-derived rangefinders. And so here, actually, let's look at that. Let's set it to a 1-second shutter. And when we wind it, you notice that that mirror goes up, stays up for 1 minute, or 1 second rather, and then comes back down. So these are really fairly easy to use from that perspective. And once you have your lens on, you just need to look through, focus, compose, set your aperture, set your shutter speed, and you're good to go. Why am I struggling with this? There we go. That's also one of the things with these these M42 screw mount lenses. You just need to make sure you got it on right. So let's take a quick look through the viewfinder. What does it look like when you're preparing to shoot through this? In this camera, as if you notice, in the center, there is a split prism. And so let's look at these buttons here on this unit. When we turn the focusing knob, you can see that those buttons and the line next to it become somewhat misaligned. So as we turn the focusing knob, they align. And then when they are aligned, they're in focus and you're ready to shoot. So we know how to work this camera now, but we need some film in it first if we're going to do absolutely anything with it. So on a lot of SLR cameras, the way that you load the film is by pulling up on the film rewind knob, which is here on the side. So we just pull up on that, and when that happens, the back is released. These sort of swing type backs are very common for SLRs. There might be some variation, but usually the bottom loading is saved for rangefinders. So this is usually a very easy process. But what we need to do is get our film. Take it out. Here we have some Fuji 400. Again, I always end up shooting Fuji 400 because it's easy, available. I get it at CVS and I can use coupons on it. So why not, right? I save my more expensive Kodak film for, you know, the bigger projects, but for just casual shooting, this is good enough. So what we're going to do is drop the film in whatever way your camera says is correct. And then we will place this film rewind knob so that, and spin it a little bit so that we are now locked in. Film is seated and we are good. In this camera, there's no like auto film take up. So what we need to do is, in this case, bring the film over to this side. There's a little green dot here on these Praktica cameras, which helps you know where you need to pull it out to. So what we're going to do is pull it out so that it passes behind the shutter here to the green line, just like so. Now what we need to do is, there's some teeth here on this, so I'm going to lightly and gingerly place it onto those teeth, and then it is ready. So let's give it a wind, and when we do that, you'll see, pow! That was effective. We did it. So we're able to close the back and we can expose our first shot. Now, generally in a film camera, you're going to want to probably burn through the first shot or two because now that was all exposed, and so you'll need to wind on and get rid of the exposed portion of film. But really, that's it. It's not too hard, and then when you're done, what you need to do is come up here to your rewind knob once you've gone through all your shots, and you know, in this case, this is a 36 exposure roll. Once it's done, you're going to come up here to this, and you're going to come down here to this, which I believe is called the clutch. It is just a, it stops the drive for the film mechanism so that it can be released. So we're going to press down on the little button here, and we will rewind the film, and you'll hear hold on. There we go. I felt it release. And when we open the back, sure enough, our film has released off of here, and we're good to go take this to be developed. So the one thing is, make sure on these cameras that if it does not have an auto rewind, make sure that you wind it enough. You'll feel a pop and a like significantly less resistance on it, and that means that it is off the spool. You might want to just make sure you wind it enough. It can be annoying if you wind it all the way back into the canister, but again, better safe than sorry, and the film techs are able to take care of that at the lab. But really, that is it in terms of how you can use an SLR camera. If yours is any of the fancier sort of autofocus, or if it has auto aperture, auto exposure, any of those kind of fancy electronic things, I unfortunately don't have that on this camera. I don't really own any that do. That's what I saved my DSLR camera for. But this does have like a auto stop down mechanism here that I'm able to preview. It triggers the aperture so that you're able to preview, and it has a light meter inside. The difficulty there is that this door contains a battery which is no longer available, a PX625 battery, which contains mercury. And honestly, I am not interested in opening this door and finding out whatever kind of mercury-laden surprise is inside, so I just keep that shut. So anyway, that's all we have in terms of loading this camera. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And now that it's all loaded and ready to go, wind it on, and you're ready to shoot. If you like this content, make sure to give it a like, a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.